The wind on the old mining moon was dry and full of dust. It blew across broken towers and rusted machines. The place was dead, forgotten by time and memory. Only the sound of the wind and the soft clanking of metal echoed through the empty halls. 2 alien women ran across the rusted floor. Their feet slipped on old oil stains and broken parts. One of them, Zali, had green skin and sharp yellow eyes. Her breathing was heavy, but her grip on the other woman never loosened. Mara, smaller and quieter, had soft blue skin and glowing freckles on her cheeks. She limped badly, her leg hurt from earlier, but she said nothing. "They're close," Zali whispered. Looking back, her voice shook. "I can hear the hunter drones." "I'm sorry," Mara replied, almost crying. "You should have left me," Zali stopped for a second, pressed Mara against a metal wall, and stared into her eyes. "I didn't leave you back on Tausaben. I won't leave you now." They kept moving, climbing into a dark tunnel made of rusted dim pipes and broken steel plates. This was once a rich mining colony before the war destroyed everything. Now it was just a graveyard. Behind them, metal wings buzzed faintly in the air. The drones were scanning the area, hunting. Their creators had given only one order: capture the traitors alive or dead. The two women reached a wide room, but before they could react, the floor gave way under them. With a loud crash, they fell into a lower chamber full of dust and old traps. Mara screamed as they landed hard on the ground. Zali's arm twisted badly, but she bit her lip and didn't cry out. Then came the click. 2 heavy metal traps snapped shut, one around Zali's leg and one across Mara's waist. They were stuck. The old defense system had activated again, even after all these years. Zali groaned and tried to pull her leg free. The rusted metal dug into her skin. She looked at Mara, who was pinned against a wall, her chest rising fast with fear. "I can't move," Mara whispered, tears running down her cheeks. "This is it." "No," Zali growled. "Don't say that. I'll get us out." She pulled and pulled, but the trap only tightened. The room was silent except for the distant sound of buzzing drones above them. "I always thought I would die under open stars," Mara said softly. "Not in this." Rusted graveyard. Zali didn't answer. Her eyes were full of fire, but her hands were shaking. For a long time they just lay there, quiet as dust fell from above like snow. Then they heard it. Footsteps, slow, heavy. Careful steps. Zali froze. Her heart pounded. The drones didn't make noise like that. These were boots. Boots made by humans. She reached for a broken metal rod nearby and gripped it tightly. The sound grew louder, echoing in the tunnel above. One shadow, tall and broad, moved through the hallway and stopped at the edge of the pit. Zali raised the rod, ready to fight, but what she saw made her stop. A human man stood above them. His face was hidden by a dusty helmet, and his clothes were patched with different materials: military armor, miner gear, and something older. His eyes, behind a clear visor, were calm but sharp. He didn't speak right away, just looked at them. Then his voice came, low and rough. "You're not part of the mining crew." "No kidding," Zali snapped, still holding the rod up. "Now get lost." He didn't move. Instead, he dropped something down to them, a flashlight. "Relax. I'm not with the drones," he said. "Name's Reed. I came here for scrap." Mira coughed. "Please, we're stuck." He studied the trap from above, then slowly climbed down with expert ease. Zali kept the rod pointed at him, but she didn't stop him from coming closer. "You try to hurt us, I'll kill you," she warned. Reed nodded like he understood. "Fair." He looked at the trap, scratched his chin, and took out a small device. After a few beeps and sparks, the trap on Zali's leg snapped open. She gasped in pain, but crawled free. Then he worked on Mara's. It was harder, older tech, but he got it open too. The moment Mara was free, she she fell into Zali's arms. Crying softly, Zali held her close, watching Reed carefully. "Why'd you help us?" she asked, confused. "You don't even know us." Reed stood up, dusted off his gloves, and looked at the ceiling above them. The buzz of drones was getting closer. "Because everyone else left you to die," he said, "and humans don't. Always follow the rules." Then he looked at them both and added, "If you want to live, come with me." The two alien women looked at each other. Zali narrowed her eyes, unsure if she could trust him. But as the sound of drones grew louder, they didn't have a choice. They followed him into the shadows, and the rusted graveyard whispered their names like a warning left behind. Asterisk Reed led them through the broken tunnels without saying much. His steps were quiet and his eyes moved fast. Always watching the corners and walls, he moved like someone who had done this before. Someone used to danger. Zali walked behind him, limping slightly, supporting Mara with one arm. Her eyes stayed locked on Reed's back. Her grip on the metal rod hadn't loosened. She didn't trust him. Not yet. Mira was weaker now. Her breathing was shaky, and her legs barely worked. "He saved us," she whispered to Zali. "Maybe he's not like the others." Zali didn't reply. She had seen too many betrayals. Too many promises that turned into traps. They reached an old service store. Hidden behind a wall of debris, Reed pressed his hand against the control panel, and after a short delay, it slid. Open with a hiss, inside was a small chamber with flickering lights, broken screens, and shelves full of old tools and wires. "Welcome to home base," Reed said quietly. "Don't expect too much." Zali helped Mara onto a metal bench, then turned to Reed. "Who are you really?" she asked. "Scavengers don't usually carry military tech." Reed didn't look surprised. He sat down, pulled off his helmet, and revealed a tired face with short dark hair and a scar across his left eye. His eyes were sharp, but not cruel, used. "To be Commander Reed," he said. "Human Recon Unit, Ghost Division, left the service 5 years ago." "Why?" Mira asked, her voice weak. Reed shrugged. "Got tired of orders that didn't make sense, tired of watching people get used and thrown away." Zali narrowed her eyes. "So you became a loner, digging through garbage?" she asked. He smiled. "Just a little. Some garbage still has value." There was silence for a moment, only the sound of wind whistling through cracks in the walls. Zali stood with crossed arms, trying to read the man in front of her. He wasn't acting like a bounty hunter, but that didn't mean he wasn't one. "You know who we are?" she asked slowly. Reed nodded. "You're Zali and Mira. The Empire put a bounty on your heads, dead or alive, and you still helped us?" Zali asked, shocked. "I've seen worse." Reed said, "I know a setup when I see one. Your story doesn't match what they broadcast." Zali sat down across from him, her voice low. "We exposed a secret program. They were using civilians as live test subjects. They called it peace through control." "I believe you," Reed said. "Without blinking, that's why I didn't turn you in." Mara looked up. "So what now?" she asked. "Are you just going to let us go?" Reed stood and opened a storage box. Inside were tools, a few weapons, and some ration packs. He tossed one to Zali and one to Mara. "I'm heading for the lower bunker tomorrow. Need some parts buried down there? Tech I can sell." Zali raised an eyebrow. "And I want you to come with me," he said. "You know alien systems better than I do. That bunker has mixed Tectorone and Curoxy. I need your help getting through it." Zali didn't answer right away, and in return, "I'll get you out," Reed said. "There's still a human safe zone out there. Far from this system, I can get you there, but not for free. You help me, I help you." Mira looked at Zali with pleading eyes. "It's our only chance, Zali." Nodded slowly. "Fine. But if you lie to us, if you try anything, you'll kill me." Reed finished. "Yeah, I figured. He walked over to a corner where a small screen showed scanner data. Drones were still searching above them. Getting closer, we move before dawn. Get some rest. Zali leaned back, still unsure if she had made the right choice. Trusting a human was never part of her plan, but they had no other option. Mara fell asleep quickly, her head resting on Zali's shoulder. Her breathing steadied, and for the first time in days, she looked peaceful. Zali didn't sleep. She kept her eyes on Reed, who now sat cleaning an old plasma cutter. He didn't glance at her, but somehow, she knew he was aware she was watching. This human didn't act like the others. He didn't ask about the reward. He didn't chain them. He didn't even ask why they were fugitives that made him dangerous. Or maybe different. She didn't know yet, but tomorrow would tell her everything she needed to know. Outside the bunker, the wind howled louder, and above them, in the ruins of the rusted graveyard, the hunter drones circled like vultures, waiting for their prey to move. But deep below, something else waited in the shadows of the lower bunker. Something not even Red knew was still alive. Asterisk, the lights in Reed's hideout flickered as morning approached. A faint alarm buzzed from his scanner, alerting him to drone activity in the upper sectors. He turned it off before it could wake the others. Zali sat quietly, already awake. Her back rested against the cold wall, while her eyes stayed locked on Mara, who still slept soundly for once. Reed walked over with 2 cups of hot nutrient broth. He handed one to Zali without a word. She took it, nodded slightly, and sipped slowly. Her voice was quiet, but serious. They think we're criminals. Reed sat across from her. I don't. Zali stared at the drink in her hands. We weren't soldiers. We didn't carry weapons. We were researchers, bioneural analysts. Reed raised an eyebrow. Scientists. Medical tech, she corrected. We worked under the Empire's Healing Forward project. Mara stirred, but didn't wake. Her face was calm now, no longer tight with fear. We thought we were helping people, Zali continued. The project was supposed to speed up recovery for injured civilians and soldiers, but we were lied to. Reed leaned forward, listening, not interrupting. One day, found a locked file in the database. Zali said it didn't belong in our system. It had no name, no ID tags, just raw data, dark, brutal data. She closed, her eyes breathing deeply. It was from a test lab on Delarian 9. They weren't healing anyone. They were planting control nodes into the brains of wounded patients, turning them into puppets, soldiers who followed orders without thought. Without memory, Reed said nothing, but his jaw clenched slightly. I told Mara, Zali went on. We didn't know what to do. If we reported it, we'd disappear. If we stayed silent, we'd be part of it. Mara's eyes slowly opened, her voice weak but clear. We leaked it. She sat up, rubbing her eyes. Sent it to the Freenatin old human rebel network that still exists in secret systems. Reed nodded slowly. That's when the bounty was placed on you, yes? Mara said. They called us traitors. Liars, enemies of peace, Zali added. We ran, changed names, hid on mining worlds and abandoned stations. But they never stopped looking. Reed looked between them, his voice low. You did the right thing. Sally looked surprised. Most humans we met didn't think so. He gave a faint smile. Most humans didn't see what I saw. My squad once rescued a colony where the Empire tested memory wipes. People there didn't even know their own names. Zali blinked, then said softly, that was one of the first field tests of the neural net project. They stared at each other for a moment, then Mara whispered, how many more programs like this do you think are out there? Reed didn't answer. He stood up and walked over to the gear bench. Let's get ready, he said. We go down into the lower levels. You help me get what I need. I help you disappear, even if it means making the Empire your enemy. Zali asked. I stopped caring about their politics long ago. Reed said, strapping on his chest gear. Besides, I've always liked picking fights with the bullies of the galaxy. They packed quickly. Reed checked his weapon. Zali grabbed a scanner, and Mira loaded a medkit. Despite her weakness, she insisted on coming. I'm not leaving you two alone, she said with a soft smile. Besides, if we find more buried tech, I might understand it better than anyone. Reed led them through a small access tunnel at the back of the room. It dropped into a narrow shaft that went deeper underground. The air grew colder, darker. The sound of dripping water echoed through the steel walls. Zali's scanner beeped softly. As they passed deeper sections of the bunker, there's energy signatures here, not just old power cores, something active. Reed nodded. That's why I came here. There's a power relay buried under this section that shouldn't be online anymore, Mara added. It might be connected to the research core. If the Empire tried to erase records, they may have failed. They reached a sealed door with faded symbols on it, Terran and Curixi tech combined. Zali placed her hand over the panel and focused. The panel lit up dimly, responding to her biosignature. It still remembers me, she said in surprise. This door was meant to open only for high-level staff. Reed raised his weapon. Then we're heading into something they really wanted hidden. The door opened with a heavy grind. Dust filled the air. Inside was a room lined with broken cryopods, shattered terminals, and glowing data cores. On the far wall was a symbol none of them expected to see. The old Human Empire Alliance seal-marked, classified Project Eclipse. Zali and Mara froze. Project Eclipse. Zali said, her voice shaking, that was the project before healing forward. They shut it down after. After the test subjects went mad, Reed stepped closer. Looks like they didn't shut it down, they just buried it as they moved into the room. One of the terminals sparked to life. A damaged AI voice spoke slowly. Security breach detected. Subject Echo online. Then something deep within the lab moved, and Zali realized too late they weren't alone in the bunker. Asterisk the moment the AI voice echoed through the room. Reed raised his rifle and scanned the shadows. The terminal's flickering light revealed broken cables, shattered screens, and thick dust that hadn't been disturbed in years. Zali moved beside Mara and pulled her close. Her fingers trembled slightly. Not from fear, but from recognition. I know that name, she whispered. Subject Echo was the first prototype. They said it was unstable. They said it was dead. Reed stared into the darkness. Then they lied. A low humming sound started from somewhere beyond the data core. Metal creaked, followed by the soft, dragging sound of something heavy moving across the floor. Suddenly, the emergency lights blinked on, casting a blood-red glow over the lab in the far corner. A chamber opened, and something stepped out. It was tall, armored, and still partially attached to medical tubes and wires. Its eyes glowed a dull orange, and parts of its body looked human, others looked rebuilt. Subject Echo, Mara gasped. It's alive. The thing looked at them but didn't move. Then a voice, mechanical and deep, came from its mouth. Are you here to terminate me? Again. Zali took a step forward. No, we're not here to hurt you. Reed didn't lower his weapon. What is it? Once a man, Zali said softly, he volunteered for memory enhancement. But the implants rewrote him. He lost everything, even his name. Echo tilted its head. I remember pain, it said. I remember the silence. Zali tried to stay calm. We're not your enemies. We're just trying to survive. Echo stared at them for a moment, then slowly backed away, disappearing into the deeper corridor. The door slammed shut behind it. Reed lowered his weapon, but his hands were still tight. We need to move. Fast. Zali and Mara nodded. They started scanning the data cores while Reed guarded the entrance. The system was damaged, but Mara found something in one of the still active consoles, a list of escape paths. And a transport hangar deep underground. There's a working shuttle below, she said, her voice filled with hope. It's old, but if we can power it, it can get us out of this sector. Reed looked at the map. The path goes through storage halls and a fusion core tunnel. Dangerous, unstable, but it's our best shot. Zali looked up. We help you get your tech. You help us get to that shuttle. Reed nodded. Deal. They packed up 2 small data modules and headed into the deeper halls. Every hallway felt like it was watching them. Echo didn't return, but the tension in the air never left as they walked through a long corridor filled with shattered cryotubes. Mara spoke softly. He wasn't a monster. No, Zali agreed. He was a victim, just like us, Reed added. The Empire didn't care about the people. Only results. Zali glanced at him. Then why did your people work with them? Reed answered quietly. Some humans were desperate to stop the war. Others were greedy. Others just followed orders. And you? Mara asked. I stopped following orders when I saw a child scream without a voice. He said she had a control chip in her throat. Couldn't even cry. Zali and Mara looked at him with new eyes. The silence that followed wasn't cold. It was shared pain. They reached the fusion tunnel, where parts of the floor had melted long ago. Heat still radiated from cracked pipes. Steam hissed from vents, making the place feel like a breathing beast. I'll go first, Reed said. Stepping on the safest-looking beam, he moved slowly, carefully, testing each step. Behind him, Zali followed, helping Mara along the way. Halfway across, the lights flickered again. A loud banging echoed through the tunnel. Something was coming from behind. Faster, Reed called. They picked up speed, hearts racing. Metal groaning under their feet, then a loud screech. One of the side walls burst open and a damaged drone crawled out. Sparks flew from its legs, but its targeting lens glowed bright red. It scanned the tunnel and locked onto them. Reed fired first, blasting a hole into the drone's chest. But it kept coming. Zali threw a pipe, hitting it in the head. It stumbled, but its claws slashed at the walkway, cutting the support beams. Beneath Mira, she screamed as her foot slipped. Zali caught her just in time, holding her with one arm and grabbing a rail with the other. I've got you, she said through gritted teeth. Reed shot again, this time hitting the drone's power core. It exploded in a burst of fire, shaking the tunnel. Steam burst from the pipes, filling the space with smoke. They reached the end just as the walkway behind them collapsed into molten steel, gasping for breath. They collapsed beside the entrance to the hangar. Reed looked at them. We almost died back there. Zali smiled, tired but alive, better than dying in a cage. The hangar doors slowly opened, revealing a dusty but intact shuttle with Terran markings and human tech systems. It was real. Freedom was real. But as they stepped inside, the ship system powered on and spoke a single word. User, subject Echo. Recognized, Zali's eyes widened. Echo had been here before, and now someone or something had just activated the ship remotely. Asterisk, the shuttle's lights blinked to life one by one, casting a cold white glow across the hangar. Dust swirled in the air, and an old voice echoed from the speakers. User, subject Echo, logged in. Systems warming up. Zali stepped back, her eyes locked on the control panel. This ship. It knew Echo, she whispered. This wasn't just a shuttle. It was built for him. Reed moved quickly to the pilot seat, checking systems and power levels. It's responding to his biometric signature. That means he used this ship probably many times. Mara's eyes scanned the room. Then why did he stay behind in the bunker? Maybe they didn't let him leave, Zali said. Maybe he didn't want to. The engines were still offline, but the ship's systems worked. Reed found a backup power regulator under the main panel. "We get this ship flying. We're gone from this rock for good," he said. But just then, the lights flickered again. A new signal appeared on the screen. "Incoming message, encrypted sender, Nyxia node froze." "This isn't coming from outside," he said. "It's coming from inside the bunker." Zali stepped forward. "It might be from Echo." The message began to play. "Tess," and a distorted voice spoke through static. "If you're hearing this, I'm already gone. My name was Elias Corin. I was the first subject of Project Eclipse. I was the mistake they buried." Mara's eyes widened. "Elias. That was the name of the chief neural scientist." The message continued. "I trusted them. I built the system that erased me. If you found this ship, then you found the core lab too. The truth is stored there, inside the red box." Reed quickly opened a storage panel behind the pilot chair. Inside was a small red cube with golden edges. Zali picked it up carefully. "Encrypted data capsule," she said. "Only a few people in the galaxy still use these. Take it." The voice continued. "Show the truth to those who still care, or destroy it. End this before they begin again." The message ended. Silence returned. Reed stood. "This is bigger than all of us." Zali looked at him. "We came here to escape. Not start a war, but running won't stop them." Mara said, holding the capsule gently. "If they rebuild Project Eclipse, no one will be safe. Not humans, not aliens, no one." Zali sighed. "We need fuel cells. They're stored in the lower storage wing, but the path might take us back." Through where Echo disappeared, Reed checked his weapon. "Then we go now, before anything else wakes up." The hallway to the storage wing was narrow and colder than the others. The lights barely worked, and deep shadows moved along the walls. Every step they took echoed like thunder in the silence. Zali led the way, her scanner in hand. The deeper they went, the more strange signs they saw, symbols painted in oil. Markings that looked human but twisted, as if written by someone losing their mind. They reached a chamber marked Echo Storage Level 2. Inside were dozens of black crates, stacked along the walls. Reed opened one, revealing fuel cells. "Jackpot," he said with a grin. But before he could grab another, the chamber lights cut out. Total darkness swallowed them. Then, a sound, metal scraping against metal, slow and heavy. Zali whispered, "He's here." A figure stepped out of the shadows. It was Echo, but his face was different now. Plates had shifted, wires extended across his arms. His voice was layered with static. "I remember you," he said. "You heard my voice. You found my truth." Reed didn't aim his weapon. "We don't want to fight you." "Elias," Echo paused, twitching slightly. "That name hurts," he said, "but it's all I have left." Mara stepped forward, holding the capsule. "We'll carry your story. You're not forgotten." Something in Echo's eyes changed. A flicker of peace crossed his damaged face. "Then you must leave before they come. The Empire. They never stopped watching. They know you're here," Zali asked quickly. "Will you stop us?" Echo shook his head. "No, I'll delay them." Reed grabbed the fuel cells. "We'll get this ship off the ground." They turned to leave. But Echo spoke one last time. "Don't let them build another me." They nodded, then ran back through the corridors. The moment they reached the hangar, the ship's system completed its power cycle. Engines hummed to life. Reed loaded the fuel, and Zali installed the capsule into a secure socket. "Let's get off this moon," she said, as the shuttle lifted into the sky. Fire rained behind them, explosions deep in the bunker. Echo's final stand had begun. The stars opened above them, endless and quiet. Mara looked at the capsule one last time. "He gave up everything so we could live." Reed nodded. "Now let's make it count." The shuttle rose through the thick clouds of the forgotten moon, shaking as it fought the old gravity systems. Pulling it back down, the engines groaned. barely holding together, but they worked. Zali sat at the co-pilot seat, her hands moving fast across the controls. "Shields are weak," she said, "but we have power, just enough to make orbit." Mara stood behind her, gripping the seat with both hands. Her eyes kept drifting to the red capsule locked in the terminal beside them. "Do you think he made it?" she asked softly. Reed didn't look back as he focused on steering the ship clear of the crumbling bunker below. Echo knew what he was doing. He said, "He stayed behind for a reason." As they left the surface behind, the sky above darkened, and stars filled the viewport, but peace didn't last long. The radar beeped sharply, fast and loud. Zali's eyes narrowed. "We've got incoming. 2 Empire scouts approaching." "Vector 7, Reed muttered a curse under his breath. "How did they find us so fast?" "They were already watching," Mara said quietly. Echo said they never stopped. The 2 small fighters appeared behind them, sleek and black. Their engines glowed red as they closed in. A voice crackled over the comms, cold and without emotion. "Unregistered shuttle, power down immediately. You are in violation of Empire containment protocols." Zali turned off the comms. "They'll shoot us down." Reed flipped open a hidden panel and revealed an old weapons control system. "We've got 1 railgun and 2 pulse shots." "That's it. We can't fight both," Zali said. "And we can't outrun them either." Mira looked down at the capsule again. "They want this," she whispered. "They don't care about us, just this." The first enemy shot fired. It missed, but barely. The shuttle shook as the blast passed under the hull. Reed shouted, "We need a distraction." Mara took a deep breath, her eyes steady now. "I'll give you one." "What?" Zali turned sharply. "No." Mara stepped toward the escape hatch. "I'll take the capsule, use the small pod to draw them away. I'll send a false signature, make it look like we all jumped ship." Zali grabbed her arm. "I won't let you do that." Mira smiled, her voice soft. "You always protected me, Zali. Even when we didn't deserve saving. Now it's my turn." Reed looked between them. "We've got less than a minute before they hit us again." Zali stared at Mara, her heart screaming, but deep down, she knew Mara was right. If they lost the capsule, everything Echo gave them would be gone. Mara hugged Zali tightly. "Tell the truth," she whispered. "That's all I want." Zali nodded, eyes filled with tears. "I'll find you again. You hear me?" "I'll find you," Mara climbed into the escape pod. She held the capsule close and activated the pod's drive system. The pod launched just as the second enemy fighter fired. Both Empire ships turned. Scanning the pod signal, it worked. "There." "Going after her," Reed said, pushing the ship into a sharp turn. "We've got a small window. Let's use it." Zali watched the pod disappear into the darkness, a trail of light behind it. Her chest felt hollow, but her mind was clear. Mara had given them a chance. The shuttle rose higher, breaking into clear space. Alarms still screamed, but the tracking signal from the pod kept the Empire off their trail. Finally, they cleared the gravity field. Reed hit the hyperdrive button. "Hold on," he warned. The stars stretched into long lines as the shuttle jumped. Silence fell inside the ship, broken only by the hum of the engine. Zali sat back, her hands shaking. "We lost her?" Reed looked down. "No, she gave us everything. They didn't speak for a while. They just floated through the dark." Letting the moment settle. Later, Zali opened a small screen in the cockpit. It showed the last location of the escape pod, drifting into a nearby asteroid belt. Its signal had gone dark. "She planned it," Zali said. "Used the asteroids to hide. She might still be alive." Reed placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then we'll find her. But first, we'll make sure this story reaches someone who will listen." Zali looked at the stars ahead. She believed in truth more than survival. "And now," Reed said, "it's our job to make sure that truth doesn't die." The ship flew quietly through space, carrying a story the Empire had tried to bury. And behind them, deep in the asteroid field, one small pod waited in silence. Hope still burned, even in the cold vacuum of space. Asterisk, the stars around them shimmered like cold diamonds as the shuttle drifted through open space, somewhere far behind. Them, the old mining moon was already out of sight. The Empire would return to clean up the wreckage, but the truth had already escaped. Zali stared through the viewport, her eyes tired but sharp. She hadn't slept since Mara left in the pod. Her hands still shook sometimes, but not from fear from memory. Reed stood at the nav console, scanning star charts and encrypted communication. Lines, signals still dead, he said. No signs of Mara's pod. She planned it that way. Zali replied, she's hiding, staying off the grid until it's safe. Reed nodded. She bought us time. Now we use it. The red capsule sat in the center terminal. Sealed under a lock, Zali had programmed herself. No one could access it without her handprint and a code Mara had whispered before leaving. What now? Reed asked quietly. We have the truth, but who do we give it to? Zali leaned back, her voice calm. Not the big councils, not the galactic diplomats. They're already bought or afraid. Then who? Reed said, people, she answered. Regular people, humans, aliens, anyone who still believes in choice, in freedom. Reed opened a small comms relay and started linking old rebel networks, pirate bands, and forgotten science guilds. The free net is still alive, he said. Very deep, but alive. Good, Zali replied. Let's make them remember. What the Empire tried to erase, they broadcast the first Fila short message from Echo himself. His real name, Elias Corrin, and his final words. It didn't take long for the response to come. Old accounts lit up across the systems, people whispering. People sharing. Screens across mining stations and outer rim bars played fragments of the footage. This isn't propaganda, someone said on an encrypted channel. It's a confession. More? Messages followed others who had escaped similar experiments. Quiet survivors who had stayed silent until now. Zali read every message, one by one, and saved each one in the ship's system. Then came a private message, labeled only as, I know who you are. Zali opened it with caution, expecting a trap. But it was a recorded video from an older woman with pale eyes and a scar down her face. I was there when they shut Project Eclipse down. She said, I saw the children locked in glass boxes. I couldn't stop it, but I can help now. Attached was a list of secure coordinates, hidden planets, stations untouched by Empire scanners, and a contact named Orin who led an underground rescue group for escaped test subjects. This might be where we begin again, Reed said. Marking the closest planet Trilus 4. A jungle-covered moon with no registered ownership. As the shuttle entered hyperspace once more, Zali finally allowed herself to close her eyes. In her dream, she saw Maris standing beside Echo, smiling with her hand over the red capsule. Maris. Voice echoed in her mind, soft and warm. You carried me when I was broken. Now carry the truth. Zali woke with a sharp breath, her chest heavy, but her heart steady. Rylus 4 came into view. Green clouds, thick forests, and glowing lakes. The landing was rough, but the ship held together. Reed guided them to an underground hangar shielded by vines and rock. A small group waited, humans and aliens alike, all marked by scars from their past. One stepped forward, tall, dark-skinned, with cybernetic eyes. He extended his hand. I'm Orin. Welcome to the Rust Fleet. Zali hesitated, then shook his hand. We have something for you. Reed brought out the capsule, and the group grew silent. Orin nodded. We've been waiting for this. Inside the command chamber of the base, they uploaded the full data. Dozens of faces lit up on screens, watching, reading. Some cried, others clenched their fists. A few saluted silently, honoring Echo's name. "We're not fighting just to survive anymore." Orin said, "We're fighting to make sure this never happens again." That night, the sky above Rylus foreglowed with twin moons. Zali sat alone near the edge of a cliff, looking at the stars. Reed joined her. "We've started something," he said. "Yes," she whispered. "But it's not finished until she comes home." He didn't ask who she meant. He knew then. Just as they sat in silence, the scanner on Reed's wrist blinked. A faint signal. One word. "Still here." Zali smiled for the first time in days. Tears welled in her eyes, but she laughed softly. "She's alive." Hope didn't scream. It didn't shout. It whispered in the dark, through rusted traps and broken stars. And somewhere in the galaxy, a pod floated quietly its passenger, waiting, healing, and watching the Empire shake from the inside.